We have a massive Cowboys trade update as a Cowboys insider has revealed some major details as to the Cowboys trade plans for Travies Etienne Jr. and any other potential running back trades. We'll tell you what this insider said and all the latest on the Cowboys right now on Cowboys Digest. Welcome in, everybody. I'm Jace Andrews. We appreciate you taking the time out of your day to spend it here with us. If you're new, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We're covering the Dallas Cowboys every single day of the year. Plus, it's 100% free to subscribe, and it's a good way to support the channel. Today's topic is a Dallas Cowboys insider dropping a key update on running back trade rumors. Now, it's no secret that Dallas Cowboys running back room is, I'm going to say, less than ideal for some people. I believe that Jaden Blue is a potential RB1 option, but Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders, I don't know that I would classify them as automatic RB1s. And so, in a lot of ways, just like the NFL has gone, it's running back by committee for the Dallas Cowboys, which is true for a lot of teams. That's not a bad thing. However, there has been a bunch of trade rumors floating around for Travies Etienne Jr., maybe even Najee Harris, who literally just signed with the Chargers, but who knows what could happen. Obviously, they drafted Omarion Hampton, the Chargers did, at pick number 22 this NFL draft. So the Cowboys are in an interesting spot where they have made this team very, very competitive. They still need to sign back Micah Parsons, but what about the running back room? That's kind of where we start with here as we go into this depth chart, and you see the wide receivers looking very solid with CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, Jalen Tolbert. Tight ends look good. QB, obviously, I trust Dak. The line looks good, but it's really that running back room that there's not a key or really true number one. Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders, and Jaden Blue are your first, second, and third strings. There's Deuce Vaughn, Hunter Lipke, Phil Maffa. Like, there's a bunch of guys that could, produce for the Dallas Cowboys, but there's not a clear number one, especially when you look at Miles Sanders and Javonte Williams. I mean, Javonte last year, 859 total yards rushing and receiving in 17 games, 139 rush attempts, 4 touchdowns. He had 52 receptions. He averaged a pretty good amount of yards per game when you consider it was yards rushing and receiving, and he wasn't the number one back. The problem is you have him, who, again, 859 rushing, receiving is not terrible, and Miles Sanders, who had 353 last year rushing and receiving in just 11 games played, and only 55 rushing attempts last season, who is, again, for a running back, definitely on the older side of things, being 28 years old. He just had 24 receptions, and Miles Sanders has never really been classified to me as a major receiving back. I know he did that a little bit with the Eagles, but in the past 2 seasons with the Carolina Panthers, that's sort of gone away from his game in a lot of assets. And for that reason, that's why the rumor for the Dallas Cowboys to go out and get a guy like Travies Etienne Jr. came about. That's where we start with the report. First off, talking about it is Justin Grasso of Newsweek, who kind of talks about why the Cowboys are in this situation to begin with, saying, quote, "If the Dallas Cowboys begin to question the status of their run game, there should be a handful of players on the block to choose from, as teams have started shifting away from a feature back and utilizing committees," which is kind of what the Cowboys did, to be quite frank. They decided, okay, Rico Dowdle last year was great. We're not going to re-sign him in free agency. Instead, we're going to get 2 cheaper options in Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders, guys who really haven't been producing over the past couple seasons. In fact, guys who have lost starting jobs in the past 2 seasons, but they've shown that in their careers they can produce. And we'll draft Jaden Blue. But it still doesn't sit right with me that the Cowboys running back room is just not downright like has that guy. Because, I mean, for as long as I've been huge from following the Cowboys, they've always had top tier running backs. At least, the past couple of years have been a little different. Rico Dowdle did take that over, but you talk about the years of Ezekiel Elliott. I mean, there's so many guys that I could go back to over the past 20 years and say, and the running back position for the Cowboys has always been a good one. So I would like to have that premier running back in the backfield, especially with Dak Prescott. And quite frankly, you don't have that. So that's where the rumor came about to get Travies Etienne Jr. Justin Grasso of Newsweek says, quote, "That's why Bleacher Report's Christopher Knox recently reported the Cowboys a potential suitor for the Jacksonville Jaguars running back Travies Etienne. The Dallas Cowboys should already be calling about Etienne's availability," is what Knox wrote late last month in the waning days of June. We're now into July. The preseason, technically the first game is July 31st, and maybe that's the day of the Hall of Fame game. So we are technically in the month of football returning. I know it's not exactly the same way, but you get what I'm saying. And so far, the Cowboys have been a bit silent since the trade of George Pickens, which, quite frankly, you would expect them to be. They've talked about potentially making some moves, But now we get a insider information as to what exactly their plan is in terms of getting a guy like Travies Etienne Jr. Because quite frankly, he would be the premier running back at just 26 years old, 15 games last year, and 812 yards doesn't seem like a lot. But again, he is a premier back, and a lot of his carries last year got taken away by Tank Bigsby. They also had a couple of draft picks this year in the running back room, the Jaguars did. So quite frankly, if he would be available, he would be for a pretty cheap price. But that's where the report comes in about what Travies Etienne's availability / the Cowboys' plan here. And not to kind of spoil anything, but we got this from a Cowboys insider saying, according to Mike Fisher of Cowboys Country, a team source made it, quote, perfectly clear that any rumors circulating about the potential interest of Etienne are simply, quote, false. The same can be said about the running back position in general. So, seems as though the Cowboys' one priority left for this offseason is to make sure Micah Parsons gets a new deal, which should be the top priority. But as to running backs, they're going to go in with Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders and Jaden Blue and trust that they can get it done. And that's where I open up the discussion to you. Is this running back room fit for the Cowboys to make a postseason run? Do you believe in Miles Sanders or Javonte Williams or Jaden Blue? Like, is there somebody in that group that you can see really rising above the rest? I see it being Jaden Blue later on in the year, like weeks 5, 6, 7, when he starts to really kind of take hold of the playbook, and I would think becoming I won't say 3 down back just because as a rookie, when you have Javonte and Miles Sanders, that's just not the way the NFL works anymore, but he would be the top back. He's going to get the most carries by, I'd say, that around that time zone. Now, the report does continue just a little bit, and this is what it says, saying, quote, it's necessary to note that, quote, at this time was used to describe the Cowboys' current thinking of the matter. The availability of Etienne or any other available running back could very well be revisited later on in the year, depending on how the season plays out for the current core, end quote. And I've kind of been saying this when we talk about these running back rumors with Travies Etienne, Najee Harris, or any other running back on a quote-unquote expiring deal. The more likely scenario is not for them to be traded during the rest of the offseason, which is dwindling at best. It's more likely for the rumors to heat back up when we get closer to the NFL trade deadline and, quite frankly, for a playoff push. Because if at that point you look at the 2 running backs you have in Miles Sanders in his past now 6 seasons in the NFL and, quite frankly, his past 2, they're not great. If he's not producing, okay, who do you go to? What if you look to, at that point, Javonte Williams? Past 2 seasons, he's not been great. He had an injury back in 2022. And Jaden Blue's just a rookie. So if you look at this running back room and you see those 2 backs, what's the choice? Is it to keep them and hope they work out? Or by the trade deadline, if they're not working out? I believe, personally, this is not a fact or any report from it, I just know how the Cowboys operate and believe that if at the time of the trade deadline the Cowboys are in or near a playoff positionment and the running back position is something that still has yet to have been clearly resolved, then they would go out and make a move. We know Jerry Jones. We know how the Cowboys have been the past 20 years, and that fact of the matter that free agency for him has never been like a huge thing. But trade deadlines, especially when they're close to a playoff position, could be a different story when you consider the fact of the matter is the Cowboys have just not produced in the playoffs for really the past decade plus. That's just the way it's kind of been. This feels like a year that could change that. It could really make the Cowboys feel different about the way that life is. Now, there is obviously a bunch of different things to kind of like look at and understand, but right now that running back position is something of note. But I do want to sit here and I've said my piece on what I think of Miles Sanders and Javonte Williams. However, we did get this report today as well from Brandon Laurie saying Cowboys running back Miles Sanders. Outside of Kyer Elam, Sanders is another name that got attention of people during the OTAs and minicamp season because he has jacked up. And he says, quote, Sanders shouldn't be forgotten about as Dallas heads to training camp in a few weeks. Miles Sanders has bulked up. He seems to be back in his physical shape that he was when he was with the Philadelphia Eagles, when he had, again, we go back to those stats, 1,000 yards, 1,200 yards back in 2022. Could we see a Miles Sanders resurgence? That's a big thing for the Cowboys, and if they did get that, boy, oh boy, that would change the complexity of this team tenfold, and quite frankly, would make this team better if you could have a Miles Sanders or Javonte Williams from the past and let Jaden Blue kind of really, really ramp up as a rookie and take over that RB1 spot once, the deals expire next season. Let me know your thoughts and opinions, though, in the comment section. Obviously, this is a fluid topic, and it will change throughout the offseason, and quite frankly, it'll change throughout the season as well. So make sure you are subscribed to keep up to date on everything relying in this situation. And, of course, anything with the Dallas Cowboys, any Micah Parsons contract news, anything related to training camp coming up. We've got a lot of information coming your way, and you don't want to miss it. For now, though, we appreciate you tuning in, and we'll see you next time here on Cowboys Digest. Peace out, everybody.